Hey guys, it's Sign here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're doing another manga review. Today we're looking at Ichi the Witch, Arc 1. This is chapters 1 through 6. This currently doesn't have a physical release yet, but you can read it on the Shonen Jump app, which is where I read it. It's a pretty interesting story. There's some issues that I have here and there with it, but broadly speaking, it's quite good. The author here is Osuma Nishi, creator of Iruma-Kun, or Welcome to Demon School Iruma-Kun. By the way, if you guys are interested in Iruma-Kun, there is going to be a spin-off series, which I think is called Iruma-Kun Mafia, which comes out later this month, so you guys should check that out. It's kind of interesting that this creator, who was a Kodansha writer, eventually managed to make their way over here to Shonen Jump. I wonder, in the US, creators usually have exclusivity with one publisher or another. I don't know how it works in Japan. I would assume it's the same way, but I guess this creator is so big and popular that they managed to have some leeway there. I do think they're still working on Iruma-Kun Mafia, and all the other stuff that they're doing at Kodansha. So this is kind of an interesting situation. I don't really know the business politics behind this or anything like that, but it's cool that this creator got to be a Shonen Jump creator as well, right? And the artist here is Shiro Uzazaki, which I think is a pen name. And this is the lady that used to do the art for Actage before that series got axed because the writer was caught doing something illegal. I can't remember what it was. It is what it is. It's nice that this creator got to come back to Shonen Jump and her career didn't get tarnished and destroyed by the actions of someone else that she worked with, right? So good for her. The publisher, like I said, is Viz Media. The demographic is Shonen. This is a Shonen Jump title. And the genre here is pure fantasy. There's nothing extra to that. It's literally just a secondary world fantasy. And I guess it's kind of like a monster catching series, kind of like Pokemon or something like that. But it's not quite like that at all. But it does have some elements that might remind you of something like Digimon or Pokemon or any other of those types of like monster catching kind of series, right? It does not have an adaptation currently, but given who the creator is and the fact that this seems to be a relatively popular series, I do imagine that it will get one in the coming years pretty soon, right? And the rating for this introductory arc is a 4 out of 5 for me. I think it's pretty good. I think it's actually very good, but there's some elements in the storytelling and the tone of the series that don't quite jive with me, and so it's less than perfect in my opinion. The premise here is that our main character is a young hunter. He was left as a child in the forest, and he managed to survive. And through his survival, he learned kind of the law of the jungle, the survival of the fittest, but also the law of being hunted and hunting, which is kill or be killed. And he has a very deep respect for the forest and animals. And one day he ends up finding himself fighting a monster, which is a magic. And through a convoluted process, he becomes the inheritor of its magic system or of its power in a world where only women are able to use magic. So, if you like Wheel of Time, or you've heard of Wheel of Time, and you kind of enjoy the concept of like male versus female, like power dynamics through exploration of a magic system, you might like this. It's not going to be similar at all, but it has that underlying, power system that it explores to some extent, right? It's a very good concept, and it's a good story overall. So I do recommend you guys read it if you guys are interested in it. In terms of plotline, it opens up with our main character, Ichi, telling us that he wants to hunt all the animals, that he is a hunter, and his goal in life is to hunt everything, right? Not to extinction, just to have been able to say that he has hunted everything, right? Kind of like a collector that wants to collect everything, right? One of everything. That's kind of the idea. And he doesn't do it in a malicious way. It's not a crazy prize hunter type thing. It's just like he knows that he needs to hunt to survive, and he hopes that through his survival and through the interactions he has in the wild, he will be able to hunt every animal in some way, right? He goes into town after managing to successfully hunt a giant moose, which is this kind of mountain yokai god thing that lives in the in the mountain next to the town and seems to have been terrorizing the villagers. He goes into town carrying this huge beast, and he takes it down to a butcher shop, I think, to get it processed. On his way out of the village, he interacts with some girls that he has known through his interactions with the town, and as he leaves, they comment on the fact that he's a bit of a weird guy, and that it's kind of odd that he doesn't want to live with other people in society. And an old lady comments that he's built different, that he is meant for other things, and that, you know, it is okay that he's like that, which I appreciate. I think it's interesting. Then, as he goes home to his mountain, we learn that he was left as a child. It's kind of like a Tarzan-esque kind of vibe where, for whatever reason, he ended up in the jungle, and now he has to find a way to survive, and he manages to do so, right? Tarzan and Mowgli in the Jungle Book are adopted by animals. In this case, this boy is just old enough to understand that he has a knife and that animals are going to come to him and that he can use the knife to defend himself, and so he does, right? But he does kind of develop this wild man kind of, you know, vibe to him, like Mowgli, like Tarzan, and maybe like other types of like young male character type things like Hatchet or Peter Pan, or like the kids from what's it called, Lord of the Flies or something like that, right? Like there is a certain element of like wildness to this character thanks to the way he was brought up. Or like the Power Rangers character, the Red Ranger from it's not Jungle Fury, what's it called, Wild Force, there we go, Wild Force, something like that, right? And he was a child. He was left with a knife, and as he was going to be attacked by an animal, I can't remember what it was, I think it was a wolf, he learns to live. He finds resolve, he kills the animal, he takes it as sustenance, and he learns to live in the jungle, right? Or in the forest, really. And then we transition back to him as an adult, or nearly an adult, and he finds a monster, this giant creature whose name is Uroro, and at the same time as he meets the creature, we transition to a different scene where we see a witch character whose name is Descara arrive in the area looking for this monster. It's a magic, which means that it is a naturally formed spirit that has access to one specific spell that the witches are hunting for, right? And as Descara arrives, Ichi ends up killing the monster and somehow gains its magic. And the way that we understand this is that Uroro is called the King Magic. His power is amplification, and because he is the king, he cannot be killed by women, which is kind of funny because in like chess, the king definitely can be killed by the queen, and Descaras is kind of playing that role in this case, right? And so Uroro has to be killed by a man, and in a weird twist of fate, Ichi is a man that can absorb his powers. Which is something that doesn't happen very often in this world. It is a female-dominated world, like I mentioned earlier. So Ichi now has this power, which is an impossible situation, and Descara can't let him go. He now has to join the magic organization, and he will have to turn into a magic hunter. And that's basically the end of the first, the first chapter. He uses the spell for the first time in order to regrow the forest that was destroyed in his battle with Uroro. Then he falls asleep for 3 days. The 3 days function as a time skip to get us to a different situation where there's this magic wolf/fox thing that's kind of going around the forest, different from where they were, and it is being hunted by Ichi. And this is kind of a very funny situation where the magic is not used to being hunted, but Ichi is doing everything in his power to track it, to copy it, to follow it. And the thing, the magic wolf thing, is being creeped out by this, the fact that he is being hunted. He is not used to this feeling. And so eventually, Ichi manages to attack it in just the right way that he kills it. And when he kills it, he successfully passes the trial that this magic has. And so he ends up taking on the chant that this magic protects, right? And so now Ichi has successfully hunted 2 magics, has absorbed their powers, and now he has to go to magic school because it's important that he become a trained witch now, right? So they go to magic school. We get introduced to Kugumi, who is a female character. She happens to be kind of a clerk. When she gets, introduced to us, she's actually running errands. She's doing kind of postage. She's sending off different mails, and she's delivering some to different places, right? She gets kind of chased by Ichi, and then she takes him down to the school where Ichi gets registered in the registration chamber, and he is accepted by the magic in place, and so he is able to become a witch. And then through a little convoluted bit of conversation, Ichi is accepted into the Witch Association by the analytic witch Shira Bedona, who is a horrible name. I guess she's supposed to be the white belladonna, so Shiro is white and Bedona is supposed to be belladonna, but obviously Japan, when they use Western names, they love fucking them up. So there you go. And it's a bit of a convoluted process, but basically the analytic witch sponsors Ichi, and she gets the rest of the Witch Association to accept Ichi as a witch and to have him join Descara and Kumugi as a member of a new team, which is going to be Team Descara's, and it's assembled, and they are going to be witch hunters or magic hunters, and they are going to specifically target magics that are human haters or that attack humans out of their own volition instead of as a accident or as a result from their interactions with witches, right? So very cool stuff here. This does kind of have like a fairy tale feel to it. You have an introduction to a character who has a magic that's a bit different from the usual magic that we see. Then they, join up with someone that's very powerful, and then they join up with someone else, and they become a team, and they go on missions together, right? Like that is the basic setup of the first arc in Fairy Tail, when Lucy meets Natsu, and then they join up and form Team Natsu, and they go off on missions with Gray and there's a Scarlet, right? Same concept here, and it's done very well. I really appreciate how this was developed. The only issue that I had here and there, the reason why my rating is lower than I really would have liked it to be, is because the comedy aspects of this story, which are not very common, but they do exist, and mostly through Descara's interactions with Ichi, it affects the tone of the story a bit. It makes it a bit too ridiculous sometimes in a way that doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the story. Like, the character is a wild boy. He is clearly someone that doesn't have too much human interaction. He's a bit of an intense guy. And then the story is constantly undermined by these jokes that we have with Descara, right? Kugumi's addition isn't bad. She's kind of like an anxious, verbally anxious character. And her interaction with Ichi is supposed to mostly show us good things about Ichi and help Kugumi grow, right? And so Descara's is the awesome elder witch character, right? Like the Gandalf or the Moraine character, but because she's also kind of like a silly person, it undermines a lot of those tropes, and so it feels a bit weird in my opinion. But broadly speaking, it is a really good story, right? So in terms of characters, we get introduced to Ichi, who is this wild boy, this hunter character. Descara's was basically the top witch in her association, of which there are several, so there's different associations, and we follow one specific association, the Witch Association, where Descara is the main badass, right? And she mentions this quite often. And Descara's is a funny character. She basically is the weird one to everyone else's straight character, if that makes sense. And she is so badass that she actually ends up coming off silly, because she constantly wants to show off and tell you, I am awesome. And every time she does, she comes off a little bit like a loser, right? And that kind of gap vibe is enjoyable, but it doesn't work when she interacts with Ichi, to my taste, right? And so I don't quite love it. And Kugumi is the girl fail kind of character. She's a little bit like Kobeni and maybe like Aira to an extent, right? So that's what it is there. Then we have Uroro, the king magic. I like that his name is Uroro because it reminds me of Ororo, the Storm character from X-Men. And he does have kind of that like majestic kind of vibe that Ororo has as well. And his magic power is ultra amplification. His trial to get his power is that a man has to kill him. And we get introduced to the wolf character again. I don't know his name. I can't remember. He's not really that important. His trial was just to be killed in a specific way, and Ichi manages to do that, so he gets his power, which is just a lightning spell. I think it's like a lightning fang kind of spell, right? And in terms of world building here, humans, specifically mostly only women, can use magic, and the way that they use magic is by absorbing the powers of magics through beating them at trials that the magics decide, right? And it's kind of unclear. This is another problem that I have. It's that in an interaction that Ichi has, he learns how to use a spell by being told what the chant is, right? And so my understanding of the story was that every single witch has a specific set of spells that they can use because they've hunted specific, magics. This shows us when Ichi learns to use that chant to grow, greenery again. It shows us that that's not actually the case. And so the way in which the system works, which is one person goes to hunt the monster, doesn't make sense to me, because if everyone can learn the chant after the first person has learned it, then it would make more sense if magic hunting was happening in groups, right? Like large groups. So it doesn't really matter who gets it as long as everyone can eventually capture the beast and then use their powers and teach it to other people. And so it's kind of unclear. The way the system works isn't too clear to me. It's also kind of stupid sounding, where you have individuals go hunting on their own, right? So I don't know. It's kind of weird. And the magics don't really die, but it's not explained to us clearly in this first arc, so I won't say too much about it, right? And we also learned that some magics go out of their way to hunt humans because they feel slighted by the magic users, the witches, hunting them, right? And so there you go. In terms of artwork and fan service, there's no fan service at all in this, although if you're a fan of fashion and stuff like that, you might like a lot of the stuff that happens here because it does have that sort of vibe to it. In terms of art, it's very beautiful, very good. The action sequences are good and really enjoyable, and the non-action sequences are really well developed and they look really nice, and the character designs are really enjoyable and very pretty as well. So this is definitely, to my eye, this is definitely a series that is meant to be a cool action series, but that is tapping into that idea that, girls read Shonen Jump too. And there's certain elements of some certain Jump series that have worked really well towards making girls really like them, kind of like Demon Slayer specifically. And so we want to play on some of those aspects and then create a nice special series that can appeal to everyone, not just males or just females, right? And so I think that this series kind of works on that premise a lot, and having Osuma Nishi, who does Iruma-Kun, and it's a series that really balances that well. And then having Jiro Sasaki, who is able to draw, action and non-action scenes really well, and have that inclusion of the fashion aspect in this really kind of very pretty looking series. It's not like a shoujo like from the 90s or anything like that. It doesn't have that like vibe, but the art style is very different from what I think of when I think of the Shonen Jump style, right? Which doesn't really exist because every mangaka does art differently, but there's a certain like expectation that you have, and this feels like it falls out of that mold, and I think it works really, really nicely. So ratings wise, 4 out of 5 for me. It's really, really good stuff. It's really enjoyable, but the tone aspects don't really work for me. I don't like the flip-flopping all that much, and I think this is an issue that I have with a lot of different manga. It's not specifically this one, but I do want to harp on that a bit here because it is just like the one thing I don't like about the series. So there you go. Those are my thoughts here on Ichi the Witch Arc 1. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you've read this down below. And thank you so much for watching. See you guys later.